So Ewe, episode 24, I think. But if I'm wrong, I'll correct myself. My name is Diane, also known as Mrs. Ewe, and this is a mainly knitting podcast, but sometimes it's also some crochet and other crafty bits and bobs. If you are a returning viewer, thank you very much for joining me today. And if you are a new viewer, thank you for hitting play. I know that over the past couple of weeks, there have been some new subscribers, mainly due to the diversity hashtag. So thank you very much for being with me, for hitting subscribe. If you are one of those new subscribers, welcome. So for today, what day is today? It is it still? Oh, my phone is there. I think it's just gone midnight. So that means it is now technically the 16th of August, which is a Thursday. As you can probably guess, everybody is asleep. Mr. Ewe is on the night shift, which is why I am recording now, and also because it's the summer holidays. So yeah, I've just spent the past hour or so just writing up some notes and getting everything together, so that I can at least do something before time goes on for too long. I don't like there to be too much of a long amount of time between episodes. So there is quite a bit to show you today. Tonight. Yeah, there's no finished objects, but there's whips, goodies. What else is waiting in the wings? I'm going to do some shout outs and also a bit of what's with you and the word for the month as well. Yeah, so it's great to be able to have this chance to do a recording. So let's get on with it. So first of all, on the needles, I have, as you can see here, my project bags lined up. I just thought I'd give you something visual to look at. I'm trying to think of ways that I can kind of brighten up the background whenever I'm recording. I'm in the living room at the moment. Usually I record in the either in here or in the playroom, which is just behind here, and I'm sat on the toy box. It's a big wooden box that Mr. Ewe had made up. Oh, I probably should have said, for those of you who are new subscribers, I live in London with my husband, who I refer to as Mr. Ewe, my 3 boys who are triplets, who I refer to as the Tripleaters, and my daughter, who I refer to as Little Miss. So Mr. Ewe had a big box made up by a colleague of his, and where we just keep all their toys, and that's what I sit on to record when I'm in the playroom. But behind me there's just this white wall, so I'm just thinking of ways to brighten it up, maybe having some of my shawls hanging up there, something like that, but we'll see how that works out. So today I've just got some of my project bags there. So the first project I'm going to show you will be in here. I'm not going to be able to show you this fully because it is a design project. It is sock 4 of the Fairly Odd Socks collection, volume 2. For those of you who are new, the Fairly Odd Socks collection is a collection of socks that are, I would say, an odd pair, or a pair of odd. Hold on. Okay, Little Miss had just woken up, but I've settled her now. So as I was saying, the Fairly Odd Socks collection is a collection of pairs of odd socks. Last year I released volume 1, which is available on Ravelry. Each collection has 4 pairs of socks, but within each sock pair there are 2 patterns, so you could either make up one of each individual pattern and wear the socks together, or just make 2 pairs of each pattern so you can mix and match. So I've made the first 3 socks for volume 2. This is the last one, so all I can show you at the moment are the heels. Okay, the lighting's a lot better than I thought it would be. So this is the heel. I'm now working on the foot. These are cuff down socks. The other 3 socks in the collection are toe up. The yarn I'm using for this is Malabriga sock in the Violetta Africana, and she's sleeping again. I have no idea what time it is, because again it is okay, not bad. So what did I just talk about? I think I mentioned the colorway. It's African Violet, I think. Yeah, so this is what the ball looks like. I know with the lighting you can't see that so well, but it's a lovely, lovely, amazing shade of purple. I picked up this skein as a de-stash from Ravelry, which I was very pleased about. The yarn, as I said, it's a sock yarn. There are 440 yards per 100 gram. I'll put the meterage on the screen for those who can't, like myself, can't do the conversion in their heads. So yeah, so far it's going very well. The yarn, it feels nice and soft to work with. I don't have a name for this pattern yet. Initially, I did have an idea of something I wanted to do, but I worked a sample, a small sample, just to see if the stitch pattern would work, because for this I knew I wanted something textured. I already have a lace pattern in the volume 2 collection, a colorway one and a cable one, so I needed something textured. Yeah, and that one, it just wasn't showing through, so I had to come up with something else. I have come up with a design, however the nature of the design means that it's tighter than I was expecting. I didn't do a proper swatch in terms of gauge. I just worked a swatch just to see if the pattern itself would show, would be visible, which it is. So because the cuffs and everything is fine, I've done my normal size for socks, which is 64 stitches, but the nature of the pattern means it pulls the stitches in. So up and from the leg to just before I work the heels, it is a bit tight. So I think if I add one more, I'll either work one more pattern repeat or the number of stitches needed to work half a pattern repeat, and then that should hopefully fix that. But I am going to continue with this sock, and then what I will do is just work with the sock, with the second leg of the sock, because the pattern is going to be slightly different. I will increase the stitch numbers on that one and see how that works. And then for this particular one, I will just work a small sample just to make sure that can go onto my foot properly, and see how it feels when it's just on my leg, to make sure it doesn't become too loose. If it ends up being too loose, then I'll just adjust the pattern instructions to make it half a pattern repeat, and then just find out how I'm going to work those extra stitches, because with this pattern there isn't a way where you can just, as it looks, there's no way you can work just half a pattern repeat. On the foot section it's fine, the leg section no, I'll have to do some other stuff there. So that's what I'll have to do if I do. But I'm guessing if I add an extra stitch pattern repeat, then that should be fine for the leg. And then I'll have to work out something to bring the numbers down for the foot, because the foot, you've got the what is it, the stocking stitch on the bottom, the sole of your feet. That helps to stretch things out a bit more. So I'll have to see how I can work that out, but it will be fine. I know that won't be a problem. So this, I have worked on this a bit today. I did the heel yesterday, and I worked, how many? I did one repeat of the pattern this afternoon, and then moved on to another project. So I was happy with the amount of work I was able to put in this today. And I did that without actually reading the notes on the pattern, which is very good. So that means there's a chance I could take this out with me, maybe when we're going to church and things like that on the bus. I might be able to work on that without having to have the pattern information next to me to refer to. But the way things are going, because I'm on the heel, the foot now, I only have to work the stitch pattern on the instep, so that has made things go a lot quicker. So I probably wouldn't need to do that. If I can work, let me see, 2 more pattern repeats tomorrow, if I aim to do 2 pattern repeats tomorrow, and then let's say maybe another one the day after, and the toe, I think that might be. So I'll work towards 2 to 3 more pattern repeats and see how that fits on my foot. But yeah, if I'm able to do 2 of those tomorrow, then I should be able to finish this particular foot over the weekend, and then cast on for the second foot. But altogether, I aim to try and finish this pair before, let's say, okay, beginning of August. Let's say I should be able to do it before then, but that's my beginning of August, beginning of September. That will be my aim. So that way, I will then begin to finally finish writing up the patterns for this collection. I had hoped to have had this released already. I haven't even started testing for the other patterns. I've pretty much finished writing up the pattern for the first sock, which is called Hello Goodbye. So what my aim is to do, once I've finished working on this, I will either have all of them just out for testing at the same time, or I will do what I did last year and have the first 2 being tested. Then once they've been tested, I will release them as an early release with some sort of discount for the whole collection. And whilst they're released, I will then do testing for the 3rd and 4th sock together, and then add those gradually too. So we'll just have to wait and see how things go on that. But yep, so far the sock is working up very nicely. This will be my first pair of socks in this kind of shade, and I would like to make another pair of socks in this shade. Either vanilla, I don't think I'll go vanilla, I'll probably do some sort of pattern, either textured or lace. But there, this is a really great yarn to work with. So that's the first whip. Feels like I've been on this for ages, just because of the pause I had to take. So next, what's my notes? Next, let's go with that one. Okay, the next whip is a sweater I'm making for one of the triple artists. For those of you who have just joined, I'm planning on making 4 sweater garments for myself this year, and also a sweater each for the kids. So I've already made one jumper for Mr. Man, who is the oldest of the triple otters, and I'm now working on a sweater for Mr., and he is the youngest of the triple otters. I can't remember where I was up to when I showed this last. I think I was probably on the collar, but this is what I have so far. So the pattern I'm using for this, I'm using the Flax Light pattern by Tin Can Knit to get the numbers for the jumper. And then, so I just worked plain stocking stitch, and on the sleeves I haven't worked the garter panel, I've just kept it all stocking stitch. But then as I've got towards the body section, I've just added this textured section, and that is using the Hermione's Everyday Socks pattern on that. Yeah, so it's working out well. Last time I tried this on him was just after I had separated for the sleeves, and the fit was going well. I think when I spoke about this last time, I mentioned that because the one I made for Mr. Man, he, on the arms, it is getting too small for him, and he hasn't even worn it, because when I finished it, that's when the weather started getting hotter. So I had contemplated giving him this one and giving the one I've already made, giving that one to Mr. But when I kind of mentioned it, they didn't seem too keen. So I will keep this one for Mr. And besides, this colour suits him more. The one I made, the other one I made, has more of a reddish grey tones. You can just check that out on my Ravelry project page. But excuse me, I think this would suit Mr. More than the other one, so I'll just stick with this for him. And I will just, for the other one, I will just have to cut the cuffs off, pick up the stitches, and just make them longer, and then what's the word? Not seam, but graft the cuffs back onto the sleeve. And I'll probably do the same with the body as well, just to make that longer. The yarn I've used for this is they're both two shades of yarn here. They are both 3rd Volt yarns. The neckline I've used, this is Librarian Sock in the Death colorway. This is the same yarn I used in the first sock of volume 2 for the Fairly Odd Socks collection. And this body section is 3rd Volt yarns again, and it's the companion 4-ply base, and the colorway is Cosmic Turtle. The Librarian Sock is a BFL nylon base. So I think this is coming along very nicely. So you can't really see it, but I've switched back to the Death colorway. You can see there. So I'm going to work the rest of the body in the Death colorway, which is a sort of green color, but not a very sort of deep green color, and work the rest of the body and the hemline in this color. And I'll do the same for the sleeve. I'll work it in Cosmic Turtle for a while, and then switch to the Death colorway and continue that on for the rest of the sock. So I'm very happy with how this is turning out. I don't know when I'll finish this, because I've got 2 more sweaters to make for them. So I'm just hoping if I can finish this by the end of September, that will give me October, November and December to do the last 2. Little Miss's one shouldn't take too long. So then it was just going to be Jimmy Jr.'s one. So that will give me October and November to do his one, which hopefully I should be able to do. But my aim, I would have liked to be able to get everything done by Christmas. Hopefully I can. So maybe they might do these for Christmas. If not, At least it will be available by the end of the year, which is my plan. Oh, the needles I'm using for this are Addies. I'm not sure what type of Addies these are, but this is 4mm. Yeah, these are the 4mm, and I'm just using spare circular needles to hold in the sleeves. I don't really like using yarn to hold the stitches, because when you then go to put the stitches back on the needles again, I think it's a lot more fiddly. I think it's easier when you've got them on needles and then you transfer them over to the working needle. But that is the sweater for Mr. and that is living in this bag, which I received from Kim the Crafty Nomad. She has a podcast on YouTube, and she also has an Etsy store called EboniePearl. I think that's the full names. Yeah, something like that. So yeah, I got this as a prize from her Ravelry group. So, and this was one of those toiletries bags that I got once as a Christmas present. There's a Sharpie marker there. Yeah, I got this as a Christmas simple gift from Simple. So this is what I use for my socks, and this is just something I just put together. I just had this from my jewelry making day, so I just thought I'd turn it into a bag charm. Right, so next we have done those two. Right, so it's been a while since I showed some crochet, but I had initially planned to do this recording yesterday, but when I came to do it, I realized it was late and I didn't have my notes with me, so I thought I would just leave it to tonight. And because I wasn't too sleepy and I wanted to catch up on some podcasts, I decided none of the projects I had would work for nighttime knitting. Yeah, so I thought I'd just pick this up and do as much as I could before I got really tired or bored. Yeah, so I added 2 colours on last night. Was it 2? No, it was only 1 colour. I'm not sure when the last time was that I showed this to you, but I'm sure I did show you the previous colour I worked, which was this purple one, and that is Third Vault Yarns Companion 4-ply minis in the Inara, not Inara, this is the Companion colorway. This was themed around Firefly, and the one I added yesterday was this one. It's also Companion 4-ply mini from Third Vault Yarns, and this is Captain Type Pants, and these were part of a minis that came as part of a club package from them. So that was just the only colour I added yesterday. So this is what the blanket looks like so far. I kind of forgot I had it there, so I would like to add more colours on this just to get it going as much as possible, but with this type of project, the more you add to it, the longer it takes to go round. So yeah, I do have a knitted blanket as well that I'm working on, which is a mitered squared one, and it's been a while since I've added anything to that, but this is the crocheted one. Right, so next, what's next? Okay, okay, that just says charms. Right, not technically on the needles, but actually, should I do? No, I'll do the final knitting one first. Right, in this, which is also the toiletries sort of bag that I received as a Christmas present. I think this was Soap and Glory. Yeah, so again, I use it as a knitting bag. I used to use this to keep notions in, but they started just flying around everywhere, and I realized it would be better to be used as a project bag for larger projects. So in this is living my Tropical Breeze top. that is designed by Joe Allport, I believe. I finished the what was it I finished? I finished the back, was it a couple of days ago? I think it was, or over the weekend. And this is the back. This is where I was when I recorded last. So I worked the top part, I did the shoulder shaping here, and then worked this section here. Now I am liking how this looks a lot. There's only one problem. It's too big. Well, it's looking like it is going to be very big. I know this is supposed to have quite some positive ease, but as I mentioned in the last episode, there's no information to say how much positive ease this should have. So it does seem big, but without, and I did measure this, and let me go back. I did a swatch. I am a tight knitter. My swatch was coming at, I wasn't hitting gauge, even though I went up a needle size. So I decided to work the next size up and thought that with my gauge, everything would be fine with that. I worked it, I did some calculations and worked out the numbers would work out better going one size up. But when I finished the whole thing, I measured it, and the width measurement going across is longer than the size I'm working on, which is size 14. And normally for knitted garments I would usually go for a size 12, even though clothes wise I'm a 10, 12. I normally, with knitted patterns, it tends to come down to a size 12, but I worked the size 14 since my gauge was tighter, and this is coming out longer than the size 14, or wider than the size 14, and now I'm hitting gauge. When I finished this, I measured it, it was longer, wider. I checked my gauge in different sections, and I was hitting gauge. So I don't know why then it's wider. So I wasn't going to rip this whole thing out. What I've decided to do was just then cast on for the front, which I've got here. For this I've decided to just work the medium size, which is the size UK size 12. When I say size 12, I'm referring to UK sizes. I'm not sure what that would be in US or other country sizes, but yeah, so cast this on using the instructions for size 12, which weren't that much smaller than the ones for the size 14. So my plan is just to work this using the width and length measurements for instructions for the the stitch and row instructions for size 12, and which when it comes to the rows it shouldn't be a problem because I'll just work to the same size as this, and then when I put everything together I'll just find a way to if it is coming up too big, I'll find a way to seam it together that will make up for that. So maybe, so if for example we've got these two together and you're seaming this edge, I might just roll this like this and then seam along together here. So this is kind of, this will be tucked inside so you won't see it. So that's what I might do, and then the sleeve will just end up having more of a rolled edge to it as opposed to having, where's the pattern? Is it in here? Or is it over there? Oh, it's over there somewhere. I was working on this before. It's over there somewhere. Yeah, so instead of having an edge that looks like this, you'll have an edge that looks like this. So that's what I'm aiming towards now. But other than that, it's a very good pattern to work on. There was one slight mistake I found in the instructions for the front, and I've looked on the, because I got it from, the pattern is from Simply Knitting magazine, I looked on there to see if anybody had put an errata on there, but there's nothing there. And other people have made the pattern, so I've just carried on. It's not a big problem if you can see how it's understand how it's constructed, you'll know straight away what the problem is and where the mix-up has been made. It's more like a typo as opposed to an error with the actual stitch instructions themselves. So that one was easy to work through. Now the final whip, but not something that's on the needles, are polymer clay charms. I made a few yesterday there in the bedroom. This morning I part baked a couple of them that I need to add more details to. So maybe tomorrow or Friday I will bake everything fully. My aim is to now start making things that will go into the store. So I started off making some licorice themed charms. I did the cheeses. They were the two that I had to part bake this morning. And I did one cinnamon swirl and also a 2 strawberries. I did 2 just to see which was the better way of putting it together. Yeah, so I was happy with how those turned out. So before the end of this week I will bake those and then start making things up to put in the shop. The cheeses, I only did one of each colour just to see if I could get the right size and work out how to sorry, a message came up on my phone, just to work out how to be consistent with the size and the shaping. So I think I've got that now. So yeah, the rest were just new things that I'd made, but I'd seen that they were simple to put together. So I'm just thinking of other things I can do with polymer clay. I have some ideas, so it's just about finding the time and opportunity to do that, especially now that it's the holidays. So whenever I see that they are a bit distracted, I'll just bring those out and work on a few things. Okay, so that is all my on the needle projects. Goodies. I am very excited to show you the goodies that I have for this episode. There are 4 lots of goodies, but some of them have multiple things inside them. The first one I will show you are these 9-inch circulars I bought. I got these with the mind to use them for the sock pattern that I'm working on, the one I've just shown you, and these are in 2.25 millimeters. That's the size I started working on with those socks, and then I switched up to 2.5 when I realized that the socks were going to be tight, so I then couldn't use these to work on the pattern. So I'm going to save these to use on a pair of vanilla socks that I want to start. They will either be vanilla socks made from self-patterning yarn, or they will be Frankenstein socks. I'm not sure yet, but that's what these will be used for. Once I finish this collection, I don't really think I'll make any other socks this year other than the Frankenstein or / vanilla socks, and they will just be something that I'll use for mindless knitting when I want to pass the time, or I'm not able to work on any of my other projects. So I haven't used 9-inch circulars before. I have a feeling they're not going to be easy to use, and it will take some time to get used to, and that's also why I think it's better to start these on vanilla socks, because look how tiny, short that needle is, and the way I think most knitters hold their needles would make this a bit awkward to work with. So yeah, I thought it was about time I tried these out, so hopefully it won't be too bad. Next, I treated myself to some badges courtesy of Slothy and Slothy and Squid. I'm getting myself mixed up between Moppy and Squid, who are a yarn dyer. This is SugarandSloth. They are a then they mainly sell badges on Etsy, but they also do greeting cards and things like that. I have shown her work on the channel before on the what's inside videos, where I get any sort of surprise packages or club packages, things like that, where I don't know what's inside it. I'll do an unboxing. So I did that for one of her what they called, like blind bag of badges. So the other week, I think it was a week ago or so, I bought some badges from her site. She was having a seconds sale, and one of the ones I picked up was this badge. It's called Snacky Sloth. It's a sloth looking into a donut. Now this is supposed to be a second, meaning that there was some sort of imperfection on there, but I can't see what would be classed as imperfect on this. So to me that just says she has extremely high standard. There is a slight mark here, but to me it's not something that if I had paid full price for, it's not something that I would have been seen as a problem. And I don't know if that's what it is, but it's not like anything major. So yeah, that's that. And along with that, I got this badge as well. It's a cat saying nope. So I think that was really cool. Yeah, she has some great stuff on her site, so do check her out. I put details of everyone I talk about in the I'll put most people in the description box, but everyone will go in the show notes, which will be on the Ravelry group. And I just remembered I didn't tell you where you can find me. You can find me on Instagram as Mrs. You Makes, and on Ravelry as YummyTripletMummy, but the information would have been up there somewhere. And there is a Ravelry group too called Mrs. You Makes. So now I've shown you these can go on the project bag. So the next goodie, the next two are the two that I have been waiting for most this month. I think I'll show you this one first. If you do watch this podcast a lot, you know that my favourite yarn dyer is Third Volt Yarns, who I've mentioned so far today already. I signed up for their Alchemist Tote bag, which is a quarterly club where you receive a project bag, yarn and a stitch marker. So this arrived on Saturday, I think it was Saturday or Friday, and I did again a what's inside video. So if you want, you can watch that to see what's inside the bag, but I'm of course going to show you now. So this was the bag itself, minus all the badges, of course. I just added those later. The bag was made, I know you're not going to be able to see it clearly there, by the Tudor Rose Craft Studio. And let me tell you, this bag is just so sturdy and strong. You know, it feels so amazing. The canvas material is just, you know, I just love the look of this bag. When I did the recording, I forgot initially to show the inside, so I had to quickly add that bit on. But the inside of the bag, I'm just trying to see how I can do this carefully, looks like this. So it's the same fabric you have here on the tag. The theme, each club has a theme. The theme for this quarter is steampunk, so that's the reason for the what's this called? Not a stopwatch, but you know, pocket watch and everything. So, and this again, yeah, the same material inside. The yarn, oh, when I pulled this out of the bag during the recording, I was so surprised and happy to receive this. So this is how it was revealed to me when I pulled it out. It was like this. that, and then boom, just that at the end of it. So I was so happy to get this. So you know, you have these darker colors here. This is not coming out so well, but I will add pictures of everything inside. This looks grayer than it should be, and these as well are a little bit brighter. So yeah, this is what the yarn looks like that we got with the club, and it's on companion 4-ply base, which is 100% superwash merino, 400 meters per 100 grams, and the colorway is called Burning Time. And yeah, when I opened this, I couldn't really decide what I would make with this, but I've decided now that this would either become a shawl and I'd pair it up with another yarn, or it would be a contrasting color in a sweater. And the stitch marker this came with is my absolute favorite part of this. You can't see it too well, but it is a pocket watch with some cogs on the front of it. I don't know who made this, but whoever did is extremely talented. And it's attached to this chain, and there's two jump rings there that it's attached to, so it really does look like a pocket watch. I'm not sure if I would use this as a stitch marker, or if this would go, most likely this would just go on a bag, and I would use this as a bag charm instead of a stitch marker, because yeah, I wouldn't want the risk of it dropping off or losing it or anything. But yeah, I just love that. So I was extremely happy with this that I got. These badges were initially divided amongst three different project bags, but I've decided to put them all on this one. So now the SugarandSloth ones I've just received can now go on to this. So, oh, and this also came with a short story, and I said on the reveal video that I believed it was possibly a continuation from the story we got in the Q1 tote club, which I thought was a really good idea. So yeah, that's that. So I was very happy. It came later than expected, but it was well worth the wait. So if you want to get a closer look at those, check out the what's inside video for the Alchemist Tote Q2, and also check out the Q1 video as well, just to see what was sent out for that one too. And if it's something that looks good to you, sign up. It's a really good club to be part of. Now, my final goodie I have been waiting for since May. If you follow me on Instagram, you may know what this is. I pre-ordered this in May and it arrived on Saturday. It is Melanie Berg's new book, Shawls. Melanie Berg is my absolute favorite shawl designer. I have so many of her shawls. I think pretty much all of her shawls in my Ravelry queue. Excuse me. I've made one of her shawls twice. That's the Sunwalker shawl, and I have I think 2 or 3 others. One that I purchased myself but haven't made yet. Another 2 that people have bought me during Get Your Yarn Wish Granted. So when I found out that she was releasing this book, I quickly looked at the patterns that were going to be in the book and compared them with the ones that I had in my Ravelry library to make sure that there weren't any duplications. And I don't think there were. So the book itself wasn't expensive. I can't remember how much it was. I think it might have been about £20. And then when you add the shipping, because it's coming from Germany, it was about 25, I think, something like that, which to me was an amazing price. So straight away I signed up for the pre-order. I've looked through this. There's 15 patterns in this, which again, when you think of the cost and getting 15 patterns, that's a very good deal. My favorite is the one on the front. The name, I cannot remember, I always forget. I know Berlin is in the title. Let me try and find it. I won't show you every single pattern in this book. Well, I plan to do a review where I will show all the pictures of the patterns, but I'll just show you the ones that I really like initially. So it's that one, and there was, I think I might have passed it. Yes, I've got you. Sorry about this. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Okay. This one, and this one. Get your front page. Right. So, this one at the front of the book is this, and that's called Midnight in Berlin. I just love the colorways. I really like geometric shapes, especially in shawls. So that is very me. I do want to have that cast on as soon as I'm able to. The next one is one that has been in my Ravelry queue, and it could be one of the ones that someone has purchased for me. I can't remember, but this is Solaris. I just love the detail of the color work on this. I think that's great. And then there is The Girl in Me. Again, just that geometric shape. Just reminds me of mazes and things like that. Oh, I'm not showing that properly. Yeah. Just reminds me of kind of like a maze. So again, I love my geometric shapes. And I don't know if I mentioned the name. That's called The Girl in Me. And finally, it's The Joker and the Thief. Again, another one that's in my Ravelry queue, and just the colours on that. I mean, come on, just those vibrant colours blend, paired up with grey. And for me, you can't go wrong with grey. So yeah, I am very happy with this book. So as soon as I'm able to, I will get started on one of those patterns. So it has been a good week, I would say, for goodies. Lots of exciting things coming through the door. If you are on Instagram, you will most likely know about the diversity hashtag that people have been using just to highlight makers who are from diverse groups who may not get a voice or representation within the crafting community. And I found that it's a great hashtag, and I've been able to connect with lots of different knitters and crocheters on Instagram, particularly those who are of colour, which I didn't see as didn't notice as many, and it wasn't something that you could really search for. But this has made it a great way just to search and find different types of people to connect with. And I found that I've had more people follow me, and I've also followed more people, and I've had more people subscribe to the channel, and I've also subscribed to a lot more channels as well. And I've been watching, spending time this week watching their videos and catching up with other channels I've been subscribed to. And one thing I've also found is that a lot of people are doing shout outs on their podcasts, which are also, I think, is a great thing, that we all help each other just to get the word out that, you know, there are so many podcasts out there, and, you know, there are those few that have so many followers. So sometimes when you have smaller channels, it can be harder for them to be noticed. I think it's great that there are people out there doing shout outs for new channels to them, or channels that they've just found out. about or just started watching. So I thought I would do a similar thing, not just with YouTube channels, but with a couple of the makers that I've newly been introduced to. So the first one, as you've seen, is SugarandSloth. As I said, her stuff in her shop is great. It's amazing. There are so many of her pins and badges that I would love to have. She does this pin party club every month where for £9, including postage, you get a pin badge, an enamel pin badge, a normal badge, and 2 extra like paper crop type stuff, usually a small picture or a card or something, which I think is great, seeing as most of her enamel badges I think are about £7. So if you imagine for £2 more per month, you get 2 badges and some little extras, and that includes the postage as well. So my plan is I would like to sign up for that. Even though technically I could, I have to prioritize things. So my aim is maybe towards Christmas to get myself a couple, sign myself up to a couple of those just as a little treat heading towards Christmas. But do check out her store. I put details on the screen and also, as I said, in the Ravelry group. Then there's Sweets of My Own. She is a polymer clay artist. I've been following her on Instagram for a little while now, and her work is amazing. And she does tutorial videos as well, and just seeing how she does everything is just so great to watch. I would like to buy something from her. She's based in the UK, as is Slothy, SugarandSloth. Yeah, so these are just great makers who I think do amazing work. Sweets of My Own stuff, she makes miniatures and also charms out of polymer clay, and the cakes that she makes look so real, like you could just reach out and eat it. Yeah, so I would love to be able to get to that level, that skill level when it comes to polymer clay making. So hopefully I will one day, but for now I just have to stick with what I can do. But that's kind of my goal, my aim. So yeah, there are 2 people I would like to give shout outs to. The next shout outs I want to do are for podcasters. Some of these are people who I've been watching for a while, and a few of those who I've been newly watching. So first of all, there's Coo Coo for Cowls. The host of that is called Jillian. She is really sweet, really amazing. Considering how busy she is with her life, I'm always surprised at the work that she does. She doesn't podcast as much as she used to, just because things are so busy, but I would still recommend that you check out her podcast and look at previous videos. There's also Shanae and the Crochet Corner podcast. She's also great. She started a sort of portion of her channel where she just talks and chats about particular issues. The most recent one she did was talking about copying versus inspiration, and just looking at the difference between the two and how to deal with the 2 of those things when they've happened to you. There's Knit Cute. Now Knit Cute is the new name for So Nitpicky, or not a podcast. So Amanda has sort of rebranded and just calling herself Knit Cute, but the podcast and everything is the same. It's just a different name, but I thought I'd just mention that because I do enjoy watching her podcast. I just like how down to earth she is, and I also enjoy hearing about her life being an army wife as well. Then there's a new 3 new podcasts to me. The first is Knit 3 Together, which is hosted by triplets. I connected with them through Instagram with the diverse knitting hashtag. Yeah, watching them together, the way they interact and talk to each other is fun, especially being a mother of triplets. Watching them, you can see their different personalities, and it's the same with my boys. When you watch them, you can see the different personalities. So it's great that each of them does have is their own self, and it's not, well, we're triplets so we have to behave and act in the same way or dress in the same way. Each of them, if you saw them walking through the street, you wouldn't know they're triplets, because they do look different. They all have their own look, which is great. And their podcast, it was 2 hours I think, and I watched the whole thing, so that tells you it was good. Then there's Purl Peaches podcast. She is, I think she's young, I think 16, 17, but again, I enjoy watching her podcast, seeing the project she's working on. I think she does knit and crochet, as does Shanae, though I think she's more of yeah, because it's called the Crochet Corner. I'm getting, no, Coo Coo for Cowls is knit and crochet, though I think she does a bit more. I think I've seen more crochet from her than knit, I think. But Purl Peaches and the Purl Peaches podcast does, I think she does both. So yeah, do check her out as well. And Scraptastic Yarns, she's also, I've started watching her. She's also fun to watch. I caught up on one of her vlogs this afternoon. So I will put those names up on the screens and in the Ravelry group notes. So that is the end of the knitting side of the episode. I'm now going to move on to what's up with you. Not what's up with you. Yeah, what's up with you? I haven't done it in a while, so I completely forgot what I called it. But what's up with you? That's when I just quickly talk about general life stuff. And then I'll move on to the word for the month, which is where I share some scripture. So if you are only here for the knitting, thank you for joining me this night. I hope you have enjoyed it if it was your first time viewing. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button so that you can be notified when new content is uploaded. And also like and comment too. I would like to hear what you think, and any other people you would recommend that I watch, because I'm always on the lookout for more podcasters to watch. Knitting, crochet, general crafting. Right, so if you are staying on this Monday, the Monday before, it was the Triple Arter's 8th birthday. I had planned to take them to a city farm that's near where we go to church. But that day I checked online and discovered that it was closed. So instead I just took them to the local retail park and got them some clothes, took them to a coffee shop so they can have some treats, and then instead took them to the farm on Tuesday. It wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be. It was a lot smaller. There didn't really seem to be as many animals. There were a few animals there, but it just didn't seem as if it was. It just seemed a bit deserted in the sense of the staff. From the website, they mentioned how they have staff on hand talking to people, explaining things to people, asking questions. But the whole time I was there, I only saw three members of staff. Two of them were going from one area to another, chatting, and another guy was moving hay from where they store the hay to other areas of the farm. And also, where they had the animals, not all of the enclosures were labelled. So you couldn't always, you knew, like, for example, there's a duck, but what type of duck is that? What other information can you give me about this duck? And yeah, there were some enclosures that were just looked empty. So I'm not sure if they were just empty because they just are empty, or if maybe they're being cleared out, and those animals are somewhere else. I don't know. So it wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be. The Triple Arters and Little Miss and my nephew, because he and my niece come and stay with us during the day during the holidays. Yeah, they were okay by it, but I think what they enjoyed more was the park outside of the farm, which had this big climbing, adventure climbing thing. So they played on that a lot. We just went around the farm quite quickly, And I even thought there would be somewhere there where we could have something to eat. There was a cafe, but it seemed like a really small cafe where you would mostly just get tea and coffee and maybe like a toasted sandwich or panini or something, which isn't what I was aiming for. I was thinking more along the lines of maybe chips, burgers, that kind of thing. So they went and played in the park area, had fun there, and then before we left, Little Miss wanted to go and see the animals again, so we went round one more time. It started to rain a bit on the way back, so we had to rush back home. We stopped off at a Christian bookstore and got them some wristbands and looked around and got a couple of other things as well. So all in all, they did have a good day. The farm wasn't what we were expecting, but they still did enjoy themselves. I'm planning on taking them to the Museum of Childhood tomorrow. I've kind of tried to plan an outing each week. I was supposed to take them last Thursday because each Thursday they do activities, and I think at the moment they're having this Nordic theme going on. I can't remember what they were supposed to be doing last week. I think it was more to do with houses and buildings, or something more fashion based and designing based. I can't remember whether that was last week or whether that's tomorrow. But I checked the weather this morning, and tomorrow it's going to be raining, so I'm taking them Friday instead. So I would have liked to be able to take them on a Thursday because that's when they do activities, but I can't wait until next Thursday because Mr. keeps asking about this place that they were supposed to go to. So I don't want to hold it off for another week just in case the weather's not good then. So I'll just take them on Friday and then they can have a look around there. So another place I'm planning to take them to is called Discover, and again that's wouldn't be too far from us. It's like a storybook adventure place where they have play areas themed around the story, and I think they do have like a book reading session as well. And at the moment I think one of them is the Gruffalo books by Julia Donaldson. That's one of them. There's other books themes that they have, but that's one of the ones that I remember. So I do plan to take them there before the school holiday ends, and I'm just going to check online for a couple of other places. I would have liked to take them to the aquarium because the last time they went there was when they were 3, and Little Miss obviously hasn't been before, but the cost of that would have been way too much. So we'll skip the aquarium. Even with the Kids Go Free, I think, scheme with one of the cereal companies, it still would have been quite a bit of money. So instead I'll look for 1 or 2 other activities we can do during the holiday. So far the weather hasn't been so great compared to the beginning of the holiday, so I'm hoping the sun does come back so we can at least enjoy some outside activity time without it becoming a bit dull and cloudy. What else? I have posted a blog post today, which is part 3 of my design process series. So in this one I talk about what happens when I make changes, how I make changes, and reasons why in the 2 projects I'm using as illustrations, the reasons why I've made changes with those projects. For the previous post I looked at how I came up with the idea for the stitch pattern. That was in part 2A and 2B because I'm looking at 2 different projects, and part 1 was just developing the idea. So the making changes was today. I think I'll probably do 2 more of those before moving on to something else. So I've enjoyed writing posts as a series because it means it gives me something to focus on and to develop instead of trying to just think of one thing something different every week. So I'll think of what I can do for the next series, or even if it is just a random post here and on different subjects, that's fine. But I just want to try and be posting something once a week, which I think has been working out relatively well so far. I haven't been doing once a week all the time, but relatively well. It's been going relatively well. So it makes a change from the times when I was only posting to say that there's been an update to the podcast. So now I want there to be some actual content there that people can come and read about. That's generally all that's been going on. Nothing much really. Oh, for their birthday we did take them to Nando's, which is a sort of like a Portuguese like chicken place over here in the UK. I'm not sure if they do have them in other countries. They do all have them in. Though I know they do have them in other countries. It's the first time the Triple Artists have been. They did enjoy it. What they enjoyed most was the drink refills, and they were looking forward to having the frozen yogurt. I got lots of questions about why it's yogurt and not yogurt, and why am I saying it funny, and I try to explain that in America people say yogurt and here we say yogurt, but they just went over their heads, so I just said never mind, let's just eat it. But the flavour they had wasn't one that they liked so much, and by that time they'd eaten quite a bit. Though Mr. wasn't so impressed with his chicken burger because he doesn't like mayonnaise, and there was mayonnaise in the chicken burger, and I told him to scrape it off, which he did, but he still only didn't finish it because there had been mayonnaise and there was still some mayonnaise residue there. But all in all, they did enjoy it, though two of them said they did prefer the Turkish grill restaurants that we normally go to. So this was more about taking them somewhere different, just getting them to try going somewhere else. So I will be on the lookout for other places to take them to that are child friendly. But yeah, Monday we went to the cinema. We saw Incredibles 2. It was Mr. Yu's idea to take them. I wasn't sure whether I was going to go with them or stay at home and enjoy the free time, but I did go with them in the end. I took the sweater for Mr. with me. I was on the section where the texture, the Hermione's section, and it was going well at first. I was able to knit in the dark. It wasn't a problem knitting in the dark, but then I dropped a stitch, and I kind of went a bit further down. I then was able to put that stitch on the needle, but I wasn't able to pick it up properly. So what I just did in the end was still work around, and then when I got to that section I did a yarn over and then slipped that stitch, worked around. When I got back to the yarn over, I dropped the yarn over, did another yarn over and slipped that stitch. So I did the yarn over so that when I was picking that stitch back up again, there would be a bit of slack in between the stitches. But it got to the point where I just thought I can't keep doing this because I have to keep checking for when I get to this point where I have to slip the stitch. And I think I wasn't sure whether or not on the previous row I had knit the yarn over. So I decided to just put the knitting away and just watch the film, which was really good. They all enjoyed it. The little miss fell asleep once she finished her popcorn and had got topped up by grandma, because my mum came to the house just before we left, so she joined us at the cinema. So once she had a few top-ups from grandma, she then left her seat, walked straight past me, sat on grandma's lap and fell asleep. It was just funny watching her sleeping next to me, and then she woke up when the film finished. So yeah, I don't think she was really impressed by the cinema. I think she only enjoyed the snacks there. But the boys and my nephew really enjoyed themselves. They had a lot of fun there, and they're already trying to plan the next film they want to see, which is Teen Titans Go, because that is a favourite of ours in the house. So yeah, they've had a bit quite a fun holiday compared to last year when the weather was absolutely terrible. So hopefully we can get to go to a few more places before the holiday ends. So the word for the month. Some of you may know that I am a pastor's wife. My husband a few months ago took over pastoral responsibilities for our church, and as part of that we've been trying to see how we can use social media to reach out to people. So we have set up a YouTube channel, and on that he does weekly similar to what I'm doing here, weekly words for the week. The one he did recently, which also linked to the message he spoke about last Sunday, is what I'm going to do for the word for the month. And it is taken from Philippians 4 verse 4, which says, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. With this particular verse, it just reminds me that there are things that are going to be happening around us which are unexpected, are difficult to deal with, are stressful, will cause us anxiety, things that go against maybe plans that we had or ideas that we had of how our lives might have panned out. But to me, when I hear those words, rejoice, it just reminds me that amongst all those things, there's always something that I can be joyful for, I can be happy for, that I can appreciate, that no matter how bad things get, if I spend so much time focusing on those things, it just brings me down. But instead, if I focus on the things that bring me joy, or things that I'm happy about, things that I see going well, even if it's tiny things, you know, like the fact that I made a pull and clay stitch marker that looked like what it was supposed to be. Like, when every time I look at it, I think, wow, I can't believe I made that. Something like that just is something for me to be joyful for, because I have the ability to make such a thing. So it just reminds me to focus on those things. Now, that doesn't mean you pretend that nothing is happening. It's just that you don't allow yourself or bring about an opportunity where you can steep down into that an anxious state. And I know for some people it's not as easy, because there are some people who do suffer from severe anxiety and depression, and in those situations it is a different case, because I think that's in those situations you need more, I would say, outside support. So even in that situation, be thankful for the fact that you have, if you do have people around you who can help you out, and also reach out to them. And I think it is important to make sure we have people who we can reach out to, so that when we do have those times where we are anxious, we are feeling depressed, where things don't really seem to be going the way we want, we can be happy for the fact that there are people there around us who we can talk to, who we can seek comfort in. So for me, this verse is just that reminder to me that however bad things get, there's always something I can look to that will make me happy, things that will be an encouragement. For example, the church is a very, 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 very small church, but I can be joyful in the fact that I know we are on the right track. I know that we don't compromise on things. We don't do things just to try and increase numbers. We just stay true to the word of God and just keep our faith in him. And that's what brings me joy. It brings me joy to see my husband when he's speaking. It brings me joy to see my children in church. So those are the things I will look to, and not focus on the numbers. Same with the podcast. I may not have the same followers as some of the larger some other podcasters, but it brings me joy just to see that anybody is watching the podcast. So with this verse, it just reminds me to always look for places where I can find something to rejoice in, something to be thankful and to be happy for. So I just hope that, you know, whatever's going on in your life, you are able to find joy even in the little things, or even just be thankful that you have people around you who can bring you that joy into your life, or who can hold you up and help you through whatever situations you may be going through. So I hope that is helpful for you, and I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. If you have made it this long, thank you very much for sticking with me. Please do subscribe again if you haven't. Likes and comments are always more than welcome and fully appreciated. and I hope you will join us again for the next episode.